Hi, it's the Almost Southern Meemaw, and I'm going to be showing you how to make my scalloped potatoes today. So we are going to start with our pre-measured, pre-cut butter, 2 tablespoons, and I'm just going to get the skillet hot, let that melt. While it does, I'm going to bring you over here and show you I've already peeled and sliced the potatoes. And notice that I just sliced them into little rounds. They're not bite-sized, but that's okay because as they cook, they are going to be getting soft and you'll be able to cut them with your fork. Now, I also haven't seasoned these because we're going to pour the seasoning over them. So let's go back here to the butter. And I'm going to just help it melt by pushing it down into the pan. And I'm trying to do this video in one take, so you'll excuse me if some parts of it take a little bit longer than others, but I just don't have time to edit a video today. But I'm going to show you how to make a roux, but first we're going to saute our onions. Now, I already have the onions chopped. Now you'll see on a lot of cooking shows, they have their onions in a neat little bowl and everything measured out. And I've done some of that today just because it's faster when I show you how to throw everything in. But don't feel like you need to do that at home. If you are measuring your flour out into a cute little container like this, you're just creating more work when you go to wash the dishes. Okay, now my butter is almost all melted. So I'm going to just start throwing my onions in. Typically, I would just slide them off the cutting board with my knife, but I'm also working one-handed today since I have to hold the camera. So we'll just plop all these onions in and we'll give them a stir. Now we're going to stir these for about 3 minutes until they become translucent. And then we're going to make our roux. Now, some people are intimidated by roux. Roux are a staple of both Southern and French cooking. I'm a quarter French, and both sides of my family are from the South. Half of them are from Kentucky, and the other half are from the French Quarter in New Orleans. So I have been making roux as long as I can remember. You make a roux to start a gravy. You make a roux to start shrimp and grits. You can use it as a base for thickening soups. And you use it to start the sauce for scalloped potatoes. And I believe the sauce that we're making is actually a bechamel sauce. I'm not going to guarantee that it's exactly a bechamel. But see how these onions are getting more translucent. You can kind of see through them a little bit. We're going to give them about 90 more seconds, cooking over high heat, continuing to stir so they don't burn. And what sound like a lot of fancy dishes are often very easy to cook. Don't be intimidated by the names of dishes or when things tell you to make a roux or marinade or something like that, because it's usually a very simple step that adds a lot of flavor. I keep scooting my onions over to the side so I can start melting butter. I told you to take your onions out of the pan for the next step, but actually I'm just sliding mine over to the side, getting most of them off my spoon, and I'm going to plop the rest of my butter in. We're using 4 tablespoons of butter all together. And this is how we're building our roux. Melting that butter. And when it's about half melted, I'm just going to dump in 2 tablespoons of flour. Now, roux are about the only thing I'll measure for. I'm really bad at measuring. And, but for the roux, you really want the butter and flour mixture to be 1 and 1. Now, if you continue to stir this for about 10 minutes, you're going to get a brown roux. I don't want that. I want it to just incorporate the flour into the butter because I don't want a brown sauce. For these scalloped potatoes, it's a very light white sauce. Okay, so now that my butter and flour are incorporated, I'm pouring in 2 cups milk. That also cools the pan down, so I don't have to worry about everything burning at this point. Now I want to keep a watch on it. You don't want it to come to a full boil now that you have dairy in there. And because my pan is big, my 2 smaller 9x13 pans are dirty, so I'm using my larger pan, which means I need a little bit more sauce. So I'm just adding a little bit more milk. That was probably about another cup. Like I said, I don't measure an awful lot. I'm trying to give you measurements. And we're going to let this simmer. And in the meantime, I'm going to put in about a teaspoon of salt. And, okay, there's no way I can crack pepper. So I'm just putting the phone down for a second. So you're getting the view of my cutting board right now. Sorry about that. But cracking pepper is a 2-handed job. And there was just no way I could do that with 1 hand. So sorry about that. I've got the pepper in now. See, if I was editing the video, I could have paused it and I could have spliced the 2 pieces together. But since I'm not doing that, and you notice this is coming together quickly, we're just going to let this start to simmer. See those nice little bubbles in it? Yeah. And as all the flavors incorporate, we're going to get a nice sauce here. Now it's going to be very watery when we pour it over the potatoes, but as it cooks in the oven, too close to a boil, gotta stir. Too close to a full boil. I also recommend non-stick pans for this, simply because if you scorch it even a little bit, it's going to be really hard to clean out your pan. Non-stick pans are much more forgiving. Oop, turn down the heat on that. I have the heat up too high. We just want to make sure that all that flour and butter in our roux is smooth. And now I'm going to turn off the heat altogether and take my pan over here, and always be careful if you're doing this. And I'm just going to dump it all on top of the potatoes. We'll put this down on the stove again. And we'll come back and just kind of stir this around a little bit to make sure there's onions in every part of it, and all the potatoes have gotten some of the sauce on them. Okay, so now that we've done that, it's time to top with cheese. And some recipes, you pour the cheese in with a sauce and you melt it. And that's how they're made. For this particular one, you just put the cheese on top. Now that's why when we put it in the oven, I usually choose a lower oven rack. Again, I'm doing this one-handed, so I'm not measuring out the cheese. I'm probably using a little bit more than the 3 cups. And we're gonna make sure, I think I can pull at this point, that it's just covered. The top is covered with the cheese. The cheese is going to make a nice cheesy crust for the potatoes. You don't want to get it too brown, but you want it a little bit brown. Okay, that's good. And we're just going to pop this in the oven, 375, for about 45 minutes. Again, choose a lower oven rack. If you're making this early in the day like I am, you can stick it in your fridge for a little while before you are ready to pop it in the oven at the right time. So congratulations, you've made your first French dish if you haven't made one before, and it wasn't as hard as you thought, and it's going to be delicious, I guarantee. Bye-bye.